Happy Thursday and welcome to ATI Pro Media. We've got the markets moving, but not necessarily the direction we want. Soybeans on the low, breaking significantly. Corn's trying to hold that $4 level. We'll bring Brady Huck in here in a second. He can quote up the markets. But we want to know, right, with this market breaking, is our viewership down? Is anyone watching? Are we busy? I know we're wrapping up harvest. We've got the beans out, generally speaking. We're trying to get the corn, but I think this bean market breaking $1 in a month has really got us burying our head in the sand. So today we've got a quick show, right? Not a whole lot of headlines, but Brady's going to give us an update in the cattle market. I want to talk a little bit about Chinese demand in the next 5 months and just looking at the soybean market and how many headlines, how many factors we have in play in the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Because I don't know if you have been paying attention, but we've got an election in about 20 days. I probably got that wrong. Rick's yelling at me. But with that, bring Brady in. He'll save me.
19 days, I think,
Dang
Connor.
it.
So
I knew it was
close.
close.
So close. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well, let's look at the markets here. Quote up the
let's
markets.
do
Let's
it.
go on down to LaSalle Street. We got corn, D's corn down 3 to 4. D's corn testing 401 and a quarter. Nova beans are down 9 at 970. Chicago wheat down a quarter of a cent. KC wheat mixed up a quarter on D's, down a quarter on March. Looking over at feeder cattle. Feeders, they are the leaders today. We got them up, green on the screen, $1.72 higher. Fat cattle are up 60 points. Lean hogs up 30 to 40 points as well. Looking over at energy, crude oil up 30 cents today. Heating oil up a penny. Nat gas up a penny. Going over to equities here at Wall Street. Looking at the NASDAQ up 32 points. The Dow up 121. The S&P up 9. So markets are moving, guys.
Yes, they are. Not necessarily the direction we want. Man, soybeans having another rough day. And to me, it comes down when we're talking soybeans, the US, we have a crop, right? The supply side of the equation is getting figured out. We know the US has pretty good yields, right? Jury's still out if it's great yields or they're really good, right? Time will tell. We'll know that in January. Brazil, right? The story was they weren't getting the crop planted. Guess what? They're getting the crop planted, and now weather looks pretty favorable and the market's breaking. So the third part of that equation is demand, and I think we need to talk about that. Let's get into some headlines real quick before we jump into that, because I feel like I might go on a rant there, Brady. But
yeah.
Here.
Corn basis says we have too much corn. That's Tommy's. What Tommy did a premium on this yesterday, right? Let's talk about that real quick. But Tommy did a premium on corn basis. We got too much corn out there. If you want that episode, got to sign up. ATI Pro Media Premium subscribers get it, $1 a day. Good value out there. That follows up his soybean special that he did the day before. So 2 back-to-back good ones there from Tommy G.
Good stuff. Always.
But back to demand. Speaking demand, we had that flash sale this morning. Another one.
Viva la Mexico.
197,000 metric tons to Mexico and a little bit of corn to unknown as well. So back-to-back sales to Mexico. Good to see. What do you think about that, Connor?
We'll take it. We'll continue to see it, right? Looking at Mexico, they're by far and away our number one importer of U.S. corn for the past couple of years, right? And we need them very much. When we start talking about hiccups, like in the rail lines, whether it's a strike, or I saw something, I believe it was in Texas, was having holdups. We don't need that with a record crop, right? We need the demand, and we need it really well. So, the other thing, Tommy's premium was talking about corn. Looking at the cash markets, right? Basis is generally weak across the corn belt. I think one thing you need to be paying attention to is let's look, once we get out of harvest, let's look at your deferred bids on this soybean market. I'm seeing some great basis numbers for November, December timeframe, whether it's going to the river to our processor here in Decatur, Illinois. So I think that's something to pay attention to, right? If we put soybeans in the bin, number one, hopefully we had it hedged because the market broke $1. And now it's time we might have some opportunities to get out of harvest and really move some soybeans. That'd be something to watch, Brady.
I think that's a good point, Connor. Sometimes when, like to your point, is are we paying attention here? Are we, dialed into finishing up harvest? What are we doing? The board's falling apart here. Are we ignoring the markets? But sometimes when that board falls apart, you get some of those opportunities out there that you got to go scratch through and find. And maybe there's an opportunity to lock in some cash beans, and you can stay long the futures with a position or strategy, but that basis opportunity might be something to go look at. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you want to talk a little cattle?
Yeah, let's dive into that. The choice cutout has been on a tear here, up nearly $20 over the last 2 weeks. You got the chuck, the round, the loin, the rib. They're all rallying higher. Consumer, you know, did we underestimate the resiliency of boxed beef demand, U.S. demand here, the consumer resiliency to be able to buy that beef? That's supported the cattle market here, and kind of supported the values there you're getting at the feed yard. So. I think that general more positive tone. We've seen the board rally significantly, pull back a little bit here after the last couple months, the last month rally, but I don't know, maybe a second breath of opportunity to go out and manage some risk here. But this market's moving and things are changing. When the cattle coming out of the feed yard are making money, Connor, that's supportive for guys being optimistic and willing to spend money on the cattle going back into the feed yard. And this is the time of year where we're weaning a calf crop. A lot of calves are coming to town. We're deciding, are they going on wheat? And are we going to run them on wheat, or are we going to just send them to town and cash in that check and pay off some bills? A lot of that's going to have to do with, do we have a wheat crop? But some of it is to the strength of the cash market out there. But if the cattle coming out of the feed yard are making money, that's going to provide maybe some strength in that cash market. Um, Briefly, I want to talk a little bit about wheat, Connor. We got a little
Let's do
problem
it.
with army worms down here.
Wh-
Fall army worms coming in, then
Oh,
planted wheat. They're mowing off some of that early planted wheat. So Oklahoma, Kansas, army worms on early planted wheat. Risk to maybe some cattle grazing type conditions if they go untreated. It's kind of back-to-back years where they've been a problem out here, Connor. But interesting thing to keep your eye on. Ties into cattle, ties into grains a little bit.
so I've got a dumb question when we talk about army worms. When they get in there, are we talking just yield hit, or are we talking? I mean, is there potential for total loss in some areas? How
Stand
bad does that affect?
like stand loss. They'll actually kill the plant, thin out stands, and you'll have blank spots out in the field from the armyworm damage. And they kind of spread like they go out, and that spot gets bigger and bigger. Um, Looks like yeah, I won't go there. I'm gonna keep my. I had a joke I was probably gonna say, but probably shouldn't say it. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I think with that, right? Number one, drop us a question. I see some questions lining up. We can maybe answer them at the end of the show because we want to talk about what you want to hear. But what I want to talk about, and this is a credit to our research team, specifically Dr. Larry Schonkweiler put this together, and it's just looking at the next 5 months, October to around Jan-Feb. We need to talk soybean imports to China, how much they're importing, and how what could we look for in terms of soybean exports. I think it comes in the perfect time where I'm seeing headlines about a trade war, tariffs. Right, we know depending on who's elected, I don't know if it depends on who's elected. We could see a trade war escalate, and how's that going to affect agriculture? Right, there's just a ton of unknowns, and you and I talk about it a lot. Of just about when the U.S. isn't the number one soybean producer, we need to respect the seasonality of South America, Brazil planting their soybeans. So, I'll jump right into it. If we're looking at the window of opportunity with U.S. soybeans going to China, right? The window is open. We've got the next 4 or 5 months. This is when we see exports really jump up. So, Dr. Schonkweiler, he used an average of like 32 million metric ton is generally what China imports from October to January. Now, in 22-23, it jumped up significantly. It's been lower, but going back to 2020, that's the average, right? And so, looking at that, I think I do have this chart here.
okay.
Where'd we put that?
So
Yeah,
this one here.
nope.
Is that the one here?
That's the end. You're jumping ahead of me.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Basically, what it's saying is with a little bit down in Brazil, Argentina, we can look for the potential if, right? I'm going to say a lot of ifs when I'm talking about this, is that there's potential for China to buy more U.S. soybeans than previous years, right? So maybe we're looking at, if China continues its usual Ocjan import pattern, U.S. will have to make nearly twice as many sales as it did in 2020 is 23-24. So potential is there for some to really ramp up some imports while we fill the gap while Brazil crop is getting ready. So potential for some really good export sales in the soybean market. Um, I think we'll take that, right? That's the pretty scenario that we see exports really ramp up. Maybe Brazil has some issues, right? That's our bullish scenario.
Okay.
I will throw a caveat, and you pop that up, is that when we're looking at this is a busy chart, but just looking at soybean imports and crush, I want you to look on the far right. That orange line is how much they're building up their stocks. So the question remains, right? Are they setting themselves up? Is China, because when we talk with China as a trade partner, right, there's always going to be a lot of unknowns. But, historically, we can look at the numbers and say, yes, they need to import X amount of soybeans, and those soybeans have generally got to come from the U.S. in this window. But if they're building up stocks, are they setting themselves up? Are they preparing for potential tariffs and preparing themselves to wait till Brazil crop comes online? So, a lot of ifs, a lot of unknowns, but just I wanted to paint the picture about how much the next 5 months mattered, right? Not even counting tariffs, election, just looking at the potential for U.S. exports to China.
Yeah. Well, that's important things to think about. I think, big picture rather than just the day-to-day noise of the market's up, the market's down, but what factors have to come together and how are different importers, exporters positioning themselves for based on production across the world. So good stuff, yeah. Connor. A lot of
Absolutely.
Dynamics.
I'll save it for another show, but we need to talk a little bit about used cooking oil imports, right? When we hear tariffs in agriculture, we think bad, right? I go back to 2018, soybeans tanked significantly, but I think when we started ATI Pro Media, the story was how much crush plants are coming online, how renewable diesel, biodiesel, how we're not going to export the raw commodity. We're going to export meal, oil, in that. We did not see that take off significantly in 2024. And a big factor that's coming into that is the imports of used cooking oil. So, if we hear tariffs and we see that eliminated, I think it's something to think about. So rant over. I'll quit talking.
Well, thank goodness we have some domestic demand, though, right? If the exports aren't there, we got a great thing in the U.S. with domestic demand for corn, for beans, for it all. That's great to see. Not every country is that luxurious, and they rely so much more on exports. But yeah, good stuff, Connor. I don't know. Markets are still not where we want them here this morning. Corn down 4, beans down 10, wheat hanging in there, only down a penny. Feeders are still the leaders, up $1. I don't know. Yeah. Got anything else, Connor? We want to get back to our day jobs here and get smiling and dialing.
Let's wrap it up. Do we have any questions? Pop it up, Joe.
South America,
Robert,
driest on record. I think they're having a discussion in there.
Okay, well, I'd say before we get to the next question, they are dry, right? We knew that. That's why we saw the delayed planting. But that forecast is changing very quickly, that they are getting the precipitation, right? To me, I always draw if we compared it to the U.S. harvest, it's very dry in February or March, right? It's concerning. We're going to talk about it. But if we catch the rains in July, August for soybeans, we can still have a good crop. So
yeah.
Here we go. Not true. Oh, here. Okay, he disagrees. Moisture is back on the fields in 1 week. Brazil will be on planting average. I don't know if I disagree with you there.
Yeah. Luke's got a good comment there. Let's throw Luke's comment up there. D's cotton barely hanging on to 70 cents here. Good point, Luke. D's cotton has been in a wide trading range from down to 64 to up to 74 cents. And here we're testing 70 cents again in the 50-day moving average. Cotton, big implications on the election, tariffs, trade, economy, all that. But the hurricanes and the weather we've seen down in the south, I think maybe impacted the yields. And I don't know, but cotton seems to be more worried and looking at the demand picture and the global stuff versus the supply side of things right now. So, good stuff. I'm good to go if you are, Connor.
Let's do it. Let's wrap it up. Everyone have a great day. We'll see if you're rooting for something. I'm staring at Dees corn at $4.50. It'd be good to hold that line, right? Well,
Important line to hold, yeah.
Here we go. We got one question.
Okay.
The question is, will U.S. farmers sell beans as quick as possible, trying to manage that price risk on a possible massive crop in Brazil on the first semester of 2025? I think they should, right? This winter, I think it presents really good opportunities typically, even now. But I think time will tell, right? We'll see. We're generally, I think we're still undersold compared to other years, so we've got a lot of soybeans to sell. But I think time will tell there. What do you think, Brady?
Possible what ifs. Those are words of, speculation of what could lie ahead. Those will change, and nobody can predict what's there. But yeah, there's potential for a big crop. There's also potential for something unexpected to come in and change this game. That's what we got to watch out for.
Yep. Well said. Absolutely. And we'll wrap it up with that. Everyone have a great day.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us. We're here every day, 9 a.m. Central. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.